I can get people to pay attention.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to hit something.
Yeah,
I did. You know, but whenever he's talking about starting to move with it, that's what he's talking about. That's exactly the sort of thing. So you can use a lot of those kind of little things, but the idea is that you're going to be pushing off of one foot and in the other. You know, and I stand like this. I don't think it's real important how you stand, as long as you have your feet under you and your ass over your feet. All right, your center of gravity. Mine's a little high. Most people's down here, because you want to have your center of gravity kind of moving. Because your knees move this way, not so well this way. Right? Your hips move side around. You know, if you can imagine, you have a rod stuck through your head, straight down your spine, coming out your butt. Right? It's how you're pivoting. And then off of that, your shoulders have a very wide arc of movement. But you want to think about your arms and your hands moving in arcs, right? That's what you want to do. You want to move in arcs. Everything you want to do with a sword is going to best happen if it happens by moving in an arc. If you have if you have a opponent, pretty much no matter what the range is, if you're standing back here like this, you can just hack. But you're really committing your whole arm and shoulder to that motion. And you can't really control it very well. It's not going to be that fast, as opposed to this. And really what you're doing is this, right? Even if it's kind of an abbreviated sort of thing, you want to get the tip moving as fast as you can. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
You're using the...
You can hold your stick up. You can hold something out here and power into it pretty easily, especially if you have big shoulders, big guys like us. People like you, not so much. It's a lot more difficult for someone with less mass to power through. Right. So, you know, by the same token, big guys like us have a tendency to use our shoulders to throw shots. And so you get tired, right? And you don't have the fine muscle skills. It's always better to use big muscles for power, small muscles for control. I mean, if you're using the small muscles for your power, well, you know, you don't have that ability to do the fine control that you want. Because as you move along, one of the things you're going to want to be able to do is target things as specifically as, you know, like in the Army or when you're shooting archery or anything like that. They always talk about aim small, miss small. Same sort of thing with fighting. You don't want to just aim at somebody's head. You want to aim at that rivet. You know, that little one specific point right there. So if you're using the big muscles for power, then you can take the muscles of your arm and stuff, use it a lot more for direction and control. And you also aren't getting quite so much problem with some of the things like overcommitment to a movement, right? It allows you to move that. So you just want to use the parts of your body in the way that they kind of naturally move. And if you can do that, keep your weight over your center of gravity over your feet, so you have a good base. Use your hips and your arms. You can be really fast, target well, won't get worn out too quick, right? So that's my little footwork spiel.
Yeah.
So that's why I like to emphasize footwork. We've got some folks, lots of folks around that have some really neat stuff that they're doing with footwork. There's some really new, cool things that come out from West. Duke Sean and some Uther and Jade and the guys out West are doing some things like that. You get a chance to pick Martino's brain. He does some nice stuff, some footwork stuff, and that sort of thing. Likewise with a lot of the other fighters that you see, you find that there is really a lot of emphasis on that. So from there, you can kind of just start thinking about some of the things you were talking about earlier about doing this sort of thing. Is what you're wanting to do is learn to use those muscle groups. And I always think of your hips as pivoting around that central core, right? Your shoulders really move in figure eights, right? You think about it. You know, you're doing this. You can contort that into all sorts of interesting arcs and things, and you will as you're fighting. But you know, that's where all that comes from. You know, I like throwing shots like this even, but that's still that same motion. It's just changing the angle using the small stuff for control. Right? So as you're going through, everything starts with the ground. Boom, boom. So it's like a little wave starts here, goes all the way up through you, culminates hopefully in smacking somebody in the nose.
Like a rope that you.
Yeah. Especially things like wraps, right? Or a lot of us throw shots that are a little tippy, you know, or that are rangy, I should say. Too tippy, they're not going to be any good. And you've got to be able to have mass in it to go through your target. But, you know, the only way that you've got two ways of generating enough force for a good shot. One is with the mass of the sword. The other is with lighter mass going faster. Okay? And the only way you can get that kind of speed is going to be like cracking a whip, right? You're going to snap it out. You watch Don go fight.
Yeah.
He throws really, really fast shots. And it's not just his hands that are moving fast, it's good physics. Or a shear. Knight from Oakard. He gets the tip of his sword going really incredibly fast. And it's all physics. He's just got really good, he's good at timing his muscle movements so that he's cracking the whip. And it's devastating to fight against because it can move so quickly. You can get ahead of your defense and stuff. So it's a lot about coordination and those sort of things. But again, it has to start from a good base.
So what about shoulder length apart, one a little bit in front of the other? Or?
Well, that's, you know, classic horse stance, or as they call it in karate, or I don't know, what do they call it, taekwondo. You know, this is how I stand. If you look at the period fighting manuals like Fiore, they have it's pretty much the same. You want if you're facing your opponent, you want your forward foot just slightly off target. You want this one slightly off of 45, so that they're standing like this. And the reason is this: if you're standing there just with your feet straight, and I push you, you really don't have a lot of ability to. It's because you don't have a lot of balance in that direction. You're standing there with your feet kind of like this, and I push you. It's easier for you to counter that in just about any direction, right? So you have more stability in your base. It doesn't have to be like this. Different people teach different things. Sometimes you'll even shift your feet forward if there's something, for some reason you can turn it around. Or some people will square up and they're pretty comfortable fighting, you know.
Seems like it's tough
with their hips blocked.
To swivel your hips and use that to throw if you're.
Well, there's the next natural step in this. Hold your stick up like this, because if you're throwing, you hear SCA people talk about using your hips and loading and unloading. What you want to do, and I'm exaggerating it, is you want to, if my hip's back here, it's cocked back, right? I'm coiled, in other words. And if I can push like this, I'm using these big muscles to power through here, right? Because we were always taught, whenever I was learning a few years ago,
how many decades?
that you should start the sword moving first, right? And this whole piece of thing. And what people have found over the years is that's really not what happens, and that's not what you want to do. Even the period manuals again, read Fiore or stuff, they talk about moving your body first, right? The last thing you want to commit to is this, because this has a lot of, you know, other things. So as you're going through this, you want to move your hips first, and then when it's unloaded this way, now this side's off. Yeah, you've got offside sort of thing. So this is like a big spring. You might as well use it. There's ways to get around that. You ever play baseball? You ever see the shortstop pick up the ball and they throw it in the air and flip it like this? Well, the reason they end up contorting their body like that is because, well, you know, that that damn Mr. Newton and his laws, right? If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have some of the weird things, with an equal and opposite reaction. You've got, if you're gonna do a bunch of power in one direction, something else is out of you. So, same thing can be said for throwing shots. And we have some of our guys that are really athletic, they'll get into all sorts of crazy positions, and they just still generate the power in, doing all these weird shots and stuff. But it's because they figured out the physics to make it powerful enough to go. So the next thing, once you're comfortable in your stance and you can move, the next thing is your hips. Your hips are moving, in time, and then of course through your shoulders. And I'm really exaggerating.
Well, yeah.
So it starts, 1, 2, 3,
work up.
and then 4 with the sword. So, in a kind of a nutshell, that's where you start with your power game anyway.
Yeah.
A lot of in betweens and a lot more after that, but.